Hola, bona nit. Benvinguts al col·legi, que és el vostre col·legi, la casa de tots. Jo, en principi, el que us voldria explicar és com va sorgir aquest esdeveniment al col·legi. I és un esdeveniment que és molt curiós. Jo tinc un amic. I aquest amic és molt amic. I aquest amic té un altre amic. I vam dir, què podem fer? Digo, oye, que no sé qué, oye, Antonio, ¿qué tal? ¿Qué cual? ¿Qué esto y lo otro? Uy, oye, pues mira, pues li vaig enviar unes diapos, bueno, ara es diuen imatges d'això, imatges, no? Vam parlant, i va sorgir senzillament que entre el doctor Henríquez i jo, a través del que a mi m'agrada, que suposo que tots ho sabeu, jo soc Xavi Llobet, però la gent em coneix per la fotografia, aleshores va sorgir un esdeveniment. Quin esdeveniment? Tenim la sort de tindre amb nosaltres una persona que ell contacta amb ell, que ell contacta amb ell, que jo contacto amb ell, que ell contacta amb ell, i a partir d'aquí sorgeix aquest esdeveniment que per mi crec que serà molt interessant. Però jo ara passo la paraula al senyor president, que és el que correspon. Jo només he obert aquí per presentar-vos senzillament perquè sapigueu d'on ve això. Ara us passo a Alfons Bielsa, president del Col·legi d'Òptics, que ell us explicarà alguna coseta més.
Hola, bé, serà una intervenció micromètrica, petitíssima. Només agrair que esteu aquí, vosaltres compartim aquesta activitat. De fet, és un honor molt gran tenir el doctor Donald Korb aquí amb aquest esdeveniment. Donar agrair al doctor Antonio Henríquez, que és un bon oftalmòleg i un bon amic de la casa, i un dels grans promotors també de la professió de l'optometria, de sempre. I bé, esperem que ho passeu el millor possible. També tenim aquí del món de l'oftalmologia, el doctor Andreu, la doctora Duc, i el Sáenz de la Maza, exacte, perdoneu, soc després de l'estiu encara no. 3 oftalmòlegs de primeríssima línia també, aquí davant nosaltres, i altres professionals del col·legi, que han vingut inclús de Lleida, de Tarragona o de Girona també. Realment, un bon públic, no? Pues bé, agrair la vostra presència, agrair també una altra vegada al doctor Henríquez que això s'ha fet possible i a la família del Donald aquesta intervenció. Moltíssimes gràcies. Gràcies.
Bienvenidos todos. Donald Korb no necesita presentación. Aquellos que no le conocéis, enseguida os vais a dar cuenta de la magnífica personalidad que tendréis delante. Donald Korb es un optómetra de Boston, americano, y es respetado en el mundo de la oftalmología internacionalmente. Lo conocen oftalmólogos de todo el mundo, pero sobre todo aquellos con los cuales trabaja, que son los oftalmólogos de la Universidad de Harvard, en Boston, donde él vive. Y su interés durante más de 30 años ha sido trabajar en un tema que siempre le ha despertado mucha curiosidad, como también a todos vosotros. Supongo que os habéis dado cuenta, más que de sobras, que la consulta más frecuente que existe, tanto en optometría como en oftalmología, es la sequedad de las lágrimas. El tema que se llama, ya explicará él después con más criterio, el ojo seco. Pues bien, él ha estado dedicado a estudiar este tema y modestamente, con su delicadeza, ha ido liberando en la literatura sus hallazgos. Hoy tenemos el privilegio de escucharle personalmente a Donald, que nos resumirá un tema que es larguísimo, porque de aquí derivan muchísimas conclusiones, como os daréis cuenta. Pues ahora tendremos el privilegio de escuchar a Donald Korb, que nos resumirá sus estudios durante todo este tiempo. Donald, please. Tanto él como yo hablaremos en inglés. Supongo que todos tenéis buena audiencia, ¿lo escucháis todos bien? ¿Bien? Ok.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me in the back? Okay, if you can't hear me, just put up your hand and I'll talk louder. My voice isn't the strongest as it once used to be. Well, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to be with you and to see so many old friends. Many of you trained in Boston, which is how I met Tony Henríquez. So. Everyone should, in the United States and throughout the world now, if you're a speaker, you're supposed to tell people whether or not you make money from what you do. So every speaker makes money from what they do because they're funded and they speak in their funding. But I chose basically a different route and I raised money privately, so I have interest in some of the areas where I have invented things, and I have invented quite a few things in my life. The only thing wrong with what I've invented and what I've received is what my family says, and it's not quite enough. But outside of that, it's very good. The story of my beginning with the Meibomian gland started in the year 1973, when Dr. Henríquez came to Boston as a fellow of Claus Dolman. So that's when it started. And a man named Miguel Rafolho, who was a very famous Spaniard from the Basque Country, who was working at Scapin's Eye Research Institute, introduced and brought Dr. Henríquez to my office. And at that time, I was puzzled. As they say in America, I didn't have a clue, knew nothing. Because I would have all these patients referred into me for contact lenses and for other reasons. And they had these terrible, terrible symptoms of dryness, of scratchiness, of grittiness. I would look at them, I would examine them, nothing. I would send them to my colleagues, including Dr. Dolman, and they would say, artificial tears. And I thought to myself, there has to be more. So I started a series of experiments over a number of years, and I found out that when you pressed in the Meibomian glands with these individuals, there was no sebum which came out. And yet if they had no symptoms, there was sebum which came out. And it was that simple. Along came Dr. Henríquez, and he is not only an ophthalmologist, not only a cornea person, but he had his PhD after he went to medical school and after he became an ophthalmologist. And he also is both a pathologist and an ocular pathologist. And he is one of the few people, and he was one of the few people in the world then, maybe Dan Alpert and a few others, who could look at the situation, make the diagnosis, biopsy it himself, read the specimen, and make the diagnosis. So it was really very exciting to work with him. And we actually worked on this project for over 5 years, and we published, and there were 2 articles which we did publish. One was in 1980 on Meibomian gland dysfunction, and the second one was in 1981. If I look back 35 years later, we did 4 things. And there is a saying, Lord, forgive us, we may not know what we do. And frequently we don't know what we've done until we look back from a different perspective. So in preparing for this talk, because it's so wonderful, I can't tell you how happy I am I haven't talked with him for 30 years on the same platform, in the same room. And we used to talk a lot during those years at meetings, and it's just wonderful. So I wanted to have a perspective. And the first point is, when I came into the field and I was trained, and when I met Dr. Henríquez, we thought of meibomitis, the IS. And the IS means inflammation. And from the inflammation, you can have many other things, including a cascade. So basically, what we did is we introduced the concept that you could have dysfunction of a gland without gross inflammation and without gross infection. And that just changed the whole paradigm, although nobody listened. The second point that we did that was important is Dr. Henríquez was smart enough to name it Meibomian gland dysfunction. And sure, there was the name Meibomian from Dr. Meibus going back to 1500, and there was the name gland, and there was the word dysfunction, but nobody ever put the three together. So putting it together was very important. And then Dr. Henríquez did a whole series of slides and defined, and you could very clearly see in his slides, the muscle fibers, the tarsal plate, the acini, the conjunctiva. And the clinical point and the pathological point that he will explain today is that the studies that he did indicated that the syndrome is due to obstruction. The key word is obstruction. If you have a bowel obstruction, you're in trouble. You have to get the obstruction out. You don't give people steroids. You don't give people antibiotics. You get the obstruction out. So it's due to obstruction of the Meibomian gland orifices by desquamated epithelial cells that tend to aggregate in these keratotic clusters. They get glued together. All these cells just form a plug, just like you'd have a plug in the plumbing underneath your sink from a lot of material going down the sink and the soaps and the other material that we throw down. So that's basically what happened. And then why was it important? Because it took 30 years for this work to really be understood. And in 2011, the International Workshop on Meibomian Gland Dysfunction, which was the most prestigious organization at the time, made the statement, Meibomian gland dysfunction is the leading cause of dry eye throughout the world. And that was really provocative. Did people believe it? I'm not even so sure that the people who wrote it really emotionally believed it. But the data was clear. The intellectual data said that. So that was just a paradigm shift. It just changed really everything in our way of thinking. And for the past 5 years, I am convinced, personally, that dry eye is the wrong diagnosis for millions. And today I hope to explain to you why. And I've deliberately chosen that to be provocative, to make people say, he's wrong, it can't be, because that's what makes us think. And you work in glaucoma, and I will show you how we have to adopt the glaucoma model in the way we think about Meibomian glands. And we now have the metrics, we now have the tools, we now have the methods to begin to make that happen. Now, no matter what I would say about Dr. Henríquez, about his education, about his knowledge, about his passion for research, it would be dwarfed by the kind of human being he is. He's just unbelievable. And I could dwell for a long period of time trying to explain how highly not only I think of him, but everybody I know thinks of him. And in testimony to that, just one of the little areas that happened, because of this work, the American Academy of Optometry's contact lens section gave him the highest award that they could. And he was the first person who physically did not fit contact lenses in some way or another who received that award. But it was unanimous. The committee was unanimous. I was not on the committee, so I was one of the nominators, but I was not on the committee, and he earned it. So with that, Dr. Henríquez is going to explain to you what he taught me, which I still haven't learned that well, but what he taught me that led us to the point where we are. Yeah. Oh, I didn't give you this. Amigo, to right. The right slides.
Let's start by observing what happens to our normal every week. Every week we renew our skin. The surface of our body is renewed almost every week. Why? Because the covering of the skin, the skin covering is made out of epidermal cells. These cells are progressing from the basal cell layer, from the deep layers, towards the surface. This is the surface of the skin. And as they grow towards the surface, they change the shape until they reach this surface. This is called a stratum granulosum, because on the histological sections, like this one, you could see this is a darker area right here. This is dark because the granules that are inside these cells produce keratin. And the minute this is done, that's it. The cell dies and detaches. This happens to us every single minute. We are now doing that. But under certain circumstances, there is people that may have an increased epithelial turnover, that this may happen much faster than every week. And then these people, of course, are not going to have 1 or 2 cells detached per minute or so, but many, as you could see here. With this in mind, remember that Meibomian glands are made out of glandular acini that produce sebum. These cells, as they grow, they are filled with different fats, mainly phospholipids and other fats. We didn't study in this group the content of the fats. But the glands are made of cells that deliver the secretion, and when they are full of fat, then they explode and release the secretion into the Meibomian gland duct. This is shown in better way in this slide, that is a high magnification, where we could see the point where the gland is releasing the secretion into the duct. This is the duct. And observe that the lining of these ducts is also desquamating a squamous epithelium, like the one of the skin, the same. So it's easy to understand that sometimes some diseases or some problems that affect the epithelial surface of our skin may also act here at this point. So we conducted a study with Donald to see what happens analyzing from the cytological point of view and from the histological point of view the contents of the Meibomian glands before and after expression of the glands. So there were times where the secretion was very oily or more inspissated in other circumstances. But we analyzed what was inside this. And what was inside were cells. Cells of different kinds. Cells like these ones I am pointing now without nuclei. This means these are cells detached already from the skin surface. And other cells with nuclei, of course, healthier cells, alive cells that were scraped off the surface of the lid margin with the collector. Some individuals did show a population of cells of desquamated epithelial cells, like here. Some others of cells that look much healthier, younger cells, okay? But after expression, after he expressed individuals with a clinical history of dryness, this is what we found. Those cells which you saw detached on the surface are here making a plug. This is a cellular plug of dead cells. This was plugging, this was obstructing the exit of the Meibomian gland. That's a very important point. First finding. Furthermore, if I speak too fast, you tell me. It's okay? Furthermore, we notice that some of those detached cells did contain bacteria, as you could see here. Not the healthy ones with nuclei inside. The detached dead epithelial cells. Here, and this other picture. In the center, there is a healthy young epithelial cell with a nucleus and some granules from the stratum granulosum, but no bacteria. Two cells on the sides with bacteria inside, which means these cells are a nice culture medium for bugs, for bacteria. Second finding. Sometimes these bacteria accumulate in such a way that the content of the gland is all this purulent material, pus. A lot of bacteria, all these are bacteria. Dead cells being destroyed and cell debris all over. Pus, purulent material coming out of the Meibomian glands. Okay? Showing back the histology, we had the chance to study histologically these patients. And certainly, these two pictures are made at the same magnification. This is the same you saw before, with the Meibomian gland here, all the acini, the excretory duct going towards the surface. Look at the surface, the squamated cells. Okay? And compare this picture with this other one on the right side. Look the size of the duct, all dilated. But not only dilated as compared with this one. This is much bigger than this other one. But look what is inside. Lots of cell debris. Lots of dead cells. This is obstruction. There was a plug at the end, a Meibomian gland that has been obstructed. Here is a diagram showing the plug at the exit of the gland and the plug you showed previously on the left side. In the case of infection, a diagram showing the gland, plenty of bacteria inside, and the content, plenty of bacteria on the left side. So these were the main findings: obstruction and cells infected after. And with this in mind, Dr. Korb continued his research, and he did many more studies that I'm so sure that you will be curious to know. And Dr. Korb, could you please continue, sir?
Thank you. Can you hear me? What's remarkable is that those were the findings in 1980, 35 years ago, and nothing has changed. We have repeated them several times in the past several years. We repeated them with several people, Pedram Hamrar at the Eye and Ear Infirmary, both histologically and by confocal microscopy, and the same. So the mechanism is very clear. And the key word is what? Obstruction. That's the key word. Meibomian gland disease is a disease of obstruction. And what causes obstruction? The electronic age exacerbates it 2 orders of magnitude. And why does it do it? Because it influences blinking. And when we don't blink, the orbicularis doesn't contract, and correct me if I am not correct, Tony. The orbicularis comes down and closes, and in doing so, the extension of the orbicularis across the lower lid is called the muscle oryolin. And I was fortunate enough to have a connoisseur of the muscle oryolin as my second best friend. Tony was always my first, and Ian Mackey, a prominent ophthalmologist at 99 Harley Street in London, was the other person I worked with for many years. And his forte was the muscle oryolin. And whenever you do anything to inhibit the muscle oryolin, what happens? You have stasis within the gland, and it becomes obstructed. Would you like to add anything to that, Tony, how important that concept is of... You went there? Okay. I was just talking about how important the problem of obstruction is. So how did MGD and its treatment evolve? Well, the major problem was obstruction. So if we talk about obstruction in medicine, the treatment is obvious. Get the obstruction out. Got to get the obstruction out. But why hasn't it been the focus of treatment? It hasn't been the focus of treatment because all of us in this room who are professionals are trained and wear the shackles of intellectual bondage that our teachers gave to us. If we are lucky to have great people you train with, then we have all that knowledge. But if we don't train with people who is great, or if we train with people who are prejudiced, we are wearing those shackles. So the reason that meibomian glands haven't moved forward is that we are all wearing those shackles of intellectual bondage cast upon us by our teachers.